Not
August, April.
What did I say it was, May?
I think you said August.
You said August.
I was trying to get through summer real quick. That was a test, Tom, by the way. You did good on the test, pal.
There you go.
All right. For April 14th, 2021, I will take a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting, which was on March 10th of this year.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made, properly seconded. Any questions or comments about the minutes? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion passes unanimously. We're going to go by the agenda at the moment with the borough. So before I ask Dawn Perlmother to speak, I would like to make a presentation to our former council member, or I'm sorry, who are you? Board member.
Never raised that high.
Yeah, well, that might be a good thing. I don't know.
Yeah, that's right.
Regardless, where's my notes? Tom Cadwalder, we would just like to thank you. And we would like you to accept this plaque, which I know it's hard for everybody to read. It's the same one that we pretty much gave Carolyn. On it, it says in appreciation of 14 years of dedicated service to this authority, its customers, and the residents of Yardley Borough. Tom, we want to thank you.
Well, thank you.
Please take this as a symbol of our appreciation for your dedication for all those years to Yardley Borough Sewer Authority. Your knowledge of the borough and its inner makings, along with your continued support of council and the community, have helped in sharing your guidance for the Yardley Borough Sewer Authority. So again, with deep appreciation, thank you very much, Tom.
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure.
Now I will get this to you as soon
Just
as.
scan it in and send it over to me.
Yeah, I'll do that. You know, I do know a carrier who can take this from me and ship it right to you with.
Well, we'll do that lunch we talked about.
Well, that's what I was waiting for the call back for, but
There you go.
regardless, we'll get together, Tom. But again, thank you from all the board members, from Borough Council, and from all the residents and ratepayers of Yardley Borough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, and Dave, you get a discount from UPS, don't you?
Hey. It adds to my dividend. Okay, with that said, Dawn Perlmother, you are welcome to present your concerns to the Yardley Borough Sewer Authority. Please state your name, your address for the record, and be my guest.
Thank you. Dawn Perlmutter, 18 West College Avenue. Last year, I was considering converting my garage into an apartment, and I wrote to the zoning officer, and he got back to me with a long list of things I needed to do, including going through the zoning hearing board for an application. One of the things he said I needed to do was to go to water and sewer and I'm reading it, for a will serve, and to confirm that I have enough EDUs, equivalent dwelling units, for my property. I ended up not doing all of that because it seemed like a lot. I ended up painting and fixing my house another way. But I did notice that it appears that another property, at least one, has gone ahead and put in, looks like it put in a sewer line to convert a barn into some kind of living space. And I was just wondering, I mean, what exactly do we have to do? If we don't have to do any of it, why I'm just confused, because it seems like some things get done and don't go through this. And if you can just do that, I'd be happy to know that I can do it. And if you can't, how come some people can? I don't mean to be vague, but I just, you know, it's frustrating. It's very frustrating.
All right, who wants to take this one?
Can you be
Uh,
specific about the property with the barn?
It's on Main Street.
Yeah, I know which one it is. And as far as the borough knows now, there aren't any plans to do anything with the barn. He didn't submit any plans to do anything with the barn. He only submitted a permit. He got a permit to replace the old sewer line, which is what it appears that he did. I don't know where the old sewer line was exactly. It might have been all the way back to Canal Street. I'm not sure. But as far as the plans go and the permit states, he replaced his old sewer line and he got a permit and he got permission to do that.
Cheryl, that's the sewer lateral, the building lateral from the house to the
Yes.
sewer,
Yes.
to the main.
And then I did look into to see if there were any permits pulled for doing anything with the barn, and there hasn't been anything. So we don't know if he's planning that in the future. He hasn't submitted any plans for the barn.
So I can just replace my old sewer line and run it back? And I just need a permit? That's all I
But
need to say I'm doing?
You can replace your lateral. You would need a permit. And if it
Okay.
was, what I'm saying is, we don't know where the old sewer line was. It might have gone all the way back there. Maybe the old owners had planned something and
But-
ran the pipe. I don't know where the original pipe was. I tried to look it up on the map.
Oh, okay.
So if he
And-
replaced what was there, then that's, what he had permits to do.
Okay.
Cheryl, you need to repeat that too. In order to replace what was there.
Right.
Now, if that barn is adjacent to the existing sewer line and the new sewer line is going to be adjacent to the barn where the old one was,
Right. If he wants,
according to borough code and to Yardley Borough rules and regulations, Yardley Borough sewer rate rules and regulations, it is illegal to connect the barn to that lateral. I just wanted to make that
that
perfectly
lateral,
clear.
yes. And he may have future plans for it, and maybe he plans to put a new connection in, but we haven't seen any plans yet, and he hasn't
Right.
come to us about that.
But as it stands right now, in replacing that old lateral from the house to the main, and if it were to go past that barn, and in replacing that, he puts a T for a future connection for the barn, and eventually on his own connects to it, that is an illegal connection.
Right.
Dawn, the borough code states you can't have two buildings on one parcel connected under the same lateral.
Oh, okay.
And Yardley Borough Sewer Authority rules and regulations say the same thing.
Okay, so that's why I wouldn't have been able to do it either.
I don't know. You'd have to appeal that
Right.
to borough zoning.
No,
Oh, okay.
well, no, that's correct.
Okay.
You would not be allowed to do that.
Okay.
And then, by the way, the work that was done on this barn property, if the permit was pulled through the borough, then it would be subject to the borough's inspection, which
Yes.
presumably the borough inspector would ensure that all they were doing was replacing the previous lateral and not making any new connections, right, Cheryl?
Yes, that's right.
Does that answer your question, Dawn?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. Any other concerns or comments?
Well, what about the River Road property? Wasn't that a separate dwelling for Mr. Deck, and then we approved that to be connected to the same lateral? Did we
No,
not?
it was not a separate dwelling.
The garage is not a separate dwelling?
It's not, it was not based for living quarters.
We just allowed him to hook up to the lateral for his convenience for his garage work.
Well, if we want to get into this now, or we
No, I'm
can-
just saying Dawn's garage, if she wanted to make if she wanted to put a bathroom in it, well, for work, for working in there, she could do that.
If it's
Right.
a
In other
separate-
words, the difference with the decks was it wasn't a whole separate dwelling or apartment. And I believe Ms. Perlmutter was talking about a separate apartment. That could not have its own service. What was done for the decks, and you're saying, Carl, potentially she could look into the same thing, would be if it was
Yeah.
simply another room with, say, a powder room.
Right.
That's
Oh,
just really an
okay.
extension of the house. That might be permissible.
So not having a bathtub, having just like a toilet and a,
Well, not having a separate dwelling.
Could she
Okay.
could make it an in-law suite though? That she'd have to get that approved through the borough. That's a possibility.
Not,
No.
okay.
no,
Yeah, that needs zoning relief and in-law suite, yeah.
right. An in-law suite is a nice term, but it is a separate dwelling.
Okay, I understand.
Gotcha.
Thanks.
Well, since we're talking about it now, and if Ms. Perlmutter would like to listen in on the conversation and discussion, we will jump right down to old business number 2. Mr. Stephen Walker's request to reestablish the connection that the previous owners were granted. Just for some back history, the previous owners had appealed to the YBSA, stating due to his physical disabilities, he wanted to be able to install a urinal and a sink in the detached garage, his workshop, because it was too much of a toll on his disability to walk back and forth to the house. And through the benevolence of the YBSA, we granted him an okay to connect to the building sewer, the house building sewer. And it was only a short time later after the code enforcement officer, oh, by the way, in granting this allowance to connect, we also insisted upon a deed restriction, which specified that the premise will never be living quarters. And that deed restriction is still on the deed. Lo and behold, after a period of time, it was discovered by the borough code enforcement officer that there was in fact a resident who was living in above the garage there in a 450 square foot apartment. And at that point, YBSA rescinded their allowance and forced the disconnection of that lateral from the garage to the house building lateral to the sewer. Where we stand now, Mr. and Mrs. Walker have appealed to the borough for a variance and were granted it by the Borough Zoning Committee. And now they are seeking the same request from us to reestablish that connection. Before I ask for everybody else's, well, I'll ask for anybody else's comments as we go, and I reserve comments prior to a consensus vote on this. So the floor is open. Mr. Walker, you may take the floor if you'd like to for anything further, but I think you're just waiting to hear from us.
I think you did an excellent job in explaining the situation as far as we know, and I guess I'm more or less here for questions if the board has any additional concerns or would like to ask me anything.
Well, after Mr. Walker, after what Dave just said, I think it's fully understandable what you can and can't do. So
Yeah,
if you fully understand that, I would be willing to make a motion that we give Mr. Walker permission to reestablish his sewer connection.
I second that.
Who seconded that, please?
I second it. Mark,
Mark did, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mark. I'm sorry.
And
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I feel like he understands fully what's going on, and I feel like we can definitely trust him to do the right thing, and I get the most out of his property.
absolutely appreciate that. Thank you. Don't want to lose the space.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. is there any questions or comments on this issue in motion? I do have a few comments, which I'd like to let everybody know about right now. Earlier, I had sent copies of the YBSA rules and regulations out to all the rest of the board members, just in case everyone didn't have a copy, or Mark being a newcomer might have not known about them. Bottom line is our rules and regulations parallel a lot of what the borough code, specifically chapter 18, section 102, says. In the rules and regulations, article 2 that I sent this morning, it spells out how connections will be made and what premises or buildings can be connected. I will add, though, that the borough code, specifically the floodplain restrictions, go even deeper. The bottom line is the zoning office in the borough have granted a variance to the Walkers, and all of the board members, including Cheryl and Carol and Blake and Brian, should have received a copy of that letter that the solicitor to the zoning board had made, summarizing the board's opinion and granting the variance. The variance was granted. My understanding is that the Walkers are the variance was granted to the Walkers based upon the fact that the connection had been previously established with the previous owners. And the Walkers have specified that they only want to use this not as necessarily living quarters, or to, I think what Alex was alluding to, a connection of the house. They want to use it basically as an exercise room. Regardless, what variances the borough issues is the borough's concern. As a representative of the sewer authority, I feel we are incumbent to uphold our rules and regulations until that time that these rules and regulations are either amended, revised, or eliminated. So therefore, just so that you know, when we do take this vote, I will be voting no, based upon those concerns that I have.
So I, even though I'm not a board member, if I may, as I understand it, I think back when Deck owned it, they found that somebody else was living there. It was, rented as an apartment, and there's no reason why that couldn't happen, again. And if Carl's motion were adopted, you get into the situation like the guy on South Main Street who has 5 buildings and 1 sewer thing, and you can't turn off the water. The one enforcement mechanism that the sewer authority has is to be able to turn off the water when they don't pay the sewer. And if you allow a connection and somebody stops paying the sewer, then let's say the person in the apartment doesn't pay the sewer, we can't turn off the water because it's going to turn off the water for the Walkers, or vice versa.
Well, bear in mind though, Tom, let me interrupt that right now. This property that the Walkers own is not subdivided.
Right.
There still is a deed restriction on there prohibiting living quarters for that building. But you're right, should this be subdivided, which I don't think it can be because it wouldn't be a big enough lot anyway. But who knows? Who knows what variances?
Right.
Zoning will
And the
grant.
zoning authority really has no
Right.
authority with regard to sewer stuff. It just says you gotta, they have authority over zoning, and the sewer authority has authority over sewer matters.
Right. So
So I think it's introducing a situation, and it deprives the sewer authority of a connection fee as well,
yes,
because we ordinarily would be entitled to a connection fee for that, and there are not too many connection fees left in the system. So
Blake, comment on this.
I'm sorry.
Does Blake have any comment on this? I didn't mean to interrupt you,
Well-
Tom. Apologize.
I mean, I think that the fact that there's a deed restriction here allows both the borough and the authority to enforce this, just like the, the code enforcement officer did with the prior owner. It can't be used as a separate living quarter, can't be used as an apartment. So, it really doesn't warrant an additional EDU under, the representation as to what it's going to be used for. But I think.
So,
that
I'm sorry, go ahead, Blake.
I think the deed restriction is the primary factor here. You can't use it for an in-law suite. You can't rent it out. Somebody can't live there. It's basically a wall. You can't have a kitchen in it. It's a washroom in a garage. So I think the way the board looked at it before was that it was really just an extension of the house system, since it was not to be used for any of those purposes.
Well,
Right.
let me just make one comment on what you just said, Blake. The board looked at it. It was trying to help a disabled individual have a urinal and a sink in his workshop downstairs. It was only after the fact that the code enforcement officer went to investigate, found that there's a whole bathroom facility upstairs and only, I believe, a sink and a shower downstairs in the basement. Now, is that, could you enlighten us, Mr. Walker?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is also you get the conflict of the floodplain. So there is the first floor, if you want to call it that, is a two-car garage, workshop, plain, simple, cinder blocks. There's nothing to it. Above the garage is that studio space where there's a shower and a sink and a toilet. Or what you call, livable space. And they also put in, at the time, a refrigerator and a stove and some cabinetry.
Well, I stand corrected, but I do stand by the fact that what went in was nothing what Mr. and Mrs. Deck had appealed to us.
Yes, from everything we've learned since the last couple of months, I completely agree with you.
Okay.
But just want to make sure everyone understands that it's only one bathroom and it's upstairs. There's nothing on the lower levels. Everything's raised. Was it 10, 12 feet from the ground is where the bathroom is. So there is no plumbing in the floodplain or flood levels. Everything's raised.
Any other comments regarding this issue? I have a motion on the table. Nothing else? I'll take a vote then. All those in favor to allow the Walkers to reestablish the connection, say aye.
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 Opposed? Opposed? I take that as 4-1.
I
Any-
voted aye.
Okay.
I voted aye.
Okay. Motion is 4-1. The request has been granted. Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. You're welcome to continue to join in and to listen to the more of the industrious conversations we have.
No, I think I'm going to call it a meeting, but thank you all so much for your time and your consideration.
I'm going to leave with Mr. Walker.
Good seeing you, Tom.
All right,
Take care,
take
Tom.
Keep in
care.
touch with me. Thank
Yep.
you. Thank you, Mr. Walker.
Thank you.
Okay. Where are we now? Mr. Smythe. Phil, if you're not ready, I can wait till later on. All right, you're gonna bust me now, huh?
Sorry, I'm here.
Okay. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How's everyone?
I think
Are you broadcasting from the pump station?
We're broadcasting live here from Ground Zero.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
How the pumps
Um,
running?
We're having some issues with the VFDs, actually. I have hopefully Dave from Municipal Maintenance coming tomorrow. And so, I mean, things are running, but having ongoing issues. So The electrical quotation that I finally got after I sent it to Cheryl, I was looking at it again and I realized that he had a date on there of December 2020. So
Yeah, I
that's how
noticed
long
that.
it took to get it. I did speak to municipal maintenance about the wet well lights, and they did come out. One of their guys came out to look at it, and I had a nice conversation with him subsequent to him coming to the site. And you know, his take on it was that he doesn't feel that it's worth trying to suffice to say, he thinks that once they start getting into whipping those lights out, that they're going to have to most likely replace all the conduit as well, because all that stuff's been down there for so long. So he doesn't think that, he thinks it will cost more than Bailey would charge. But municipal is also factoring in all of the confined space procedures and all that they have to have in place to work down there safely. And anybody here that's seen the wet well knows what I'm talking about. You know, not only is there issues with the environment, but they're going to have to most likely set up some kind of scaffolding and all the work down there. And you're working around a lot of things, including, you know, open areas where you've got sewage that you could fall down into and all. So that's going to add to the cost. I don't know. Bailey's a smaller outfit. I don't know. We didn't discuss confined space work with him. That's really his responsibility, not ours.
Mhm.
So, you know, I don't know what he has included for that in that price. Municipal's recommendation for now was, they said, look, why don't you guys consider having them replace, this is an alternative, replace the bulbs, the bad sodium bulbs that are in there, and hopefully the fixtures they're able to get the fixtures to come apart so they can get the bulbs in there, replace the switch that's not working, and at least get us, you know, moving along for now until we can decide later what we're going to do with it. But he said, like, that's a roll of the dice too, because again, until they get in there, you know, the condition of the lights may not be good enough that, you know, they can even get them open and maybe so badly corroded. So, you know, the problem with these lights, for anybody that doesn't know, is they're expensive as hell to buy because they're explosion proof. They have to be in there. And my experience buying these lights for other stations is that 5 or 6 lights, you know, that's about half, at least half of that quote is just the cost of the lights themselves. So you're already in, you know, half the money when you buy the lights. Now they're sitting on the floor in a box. Now you got to install them. So it's just, there's some unknowns here. And, you know, the other alternative is you try to find someone else to come in here and look at it. Maybe they've got another idea. So one of my objectives tonight is I'm going to look through the manuals and things from when the station was redone the last time. And I'm going to try to see if there's any cut sheets on those lights so that I can at least give that information to municipal maintenance. And then maybe if they see the lights, they might be able to see if there's a drop-in replacement LED. It just depends on the fixture itself. And if that's the possibility, then that may be the ultimate way to go, provided everything else in there is good. So that's kind of my third option I'm working on tonight here. The VFDs, I don't have anything to report on that yet because we don't have, like I said, he'll be out here tomorrow. And everything else, aside from that, Mrs. Lincoln, how did you enjoy the play? Everything else is okay.
You mentioned the conduit and everything. Did municipal take a look at any of the conduit, or is that even tough to do because the lights don't work?
Yeah, it's pitch black down there, and you really can't. It's so high up when you're down on the floor looking. It's really hard to tell. Once you get in there and start messing with it, it might be solid. It may start crumbling, falling apart. Who knows?
Well,
He was just giving me his best estimate based on his experience, what he has encountered before.
municipal
He's
didn't
like-
give, municipal didn't give you an estimate yet, though, right?
Well,
Or is he agreeing with Bailey's?
he thinks, I did mention Bailey's price to him, and he did say that he doesn't think that they could do it for that. He thinks it would end up being more by the time they do all the confined space work, and assuming that they're probably gonna run into some other issues while they're there, like the
Well, ju-
conduit.
Just the conduit itself could jack that up.
Yeah, it's just more work involved. You know, and you're paying for, man hours and all that stuff.
Well, I don't, maybe you'll find something in the books. I'm gonna assume that that conduit was new 23 years ago.
I would assume that too.
Yeah, because the station was rebuilt in 98.
Yep.
97 through 98. So, it's, I don't know.
I guess, they've been out for months now, so, since actually late last year, I guess, last fall, something like that. So, there is a need to get it done, but obviously we've gone this long without it. We haven't done any major work in the wet well yet. At some point, we're going to have to get down there and do work. So, they do need to be addressed, but,
Give me a
Have a
worst case, give me a worst case scenario.
what do you mean worst case scenario? Worst case scenario is a plane crashes into the station and it blows up.
Okay. How about the water rises 30 feet and it floods it all? We still got to get down there eventually, right?
That's not good if you live around here.
I'm safe.
Yeah, really, Dave. Come up with another scenario, please.
Are you talking, Dave, are you asking, what do you think money wise?
No, I guess what I'm saying is we're kicking the can down the road. We're going to do it, but we're not too sure yet. What's going to be the impetus to cause us to say, oh, hell, we got to do it now.
Well, if you have to have any work done down there, there's no lights. So now you're bringing in lights.
Yep.
And, there's the additional cost for that if you have somebody down there working. Plus now, is that lighting that they're bringing in going to be explosion proof? Probably not. It's probably going to be halogen lights that they got from Home Depot or something. So it's kind of a risk thing. There's a reason that they want explosion proof lights in wet wells. And, LEDs are definitely better, longer lasting, and they go on instantly. I can't imagine. I don't know. I guess at the time, this type of lighting was popular. Or maybe it was the only thing that was available. But it's one of the worst things you could put in a wet well because you don't go down there very often for routine checks. You might go down there, you want to look in there, or you may want to go down a few steps and look around and check things. You might have the lights on for 5-10 minutes. Well, it takes 5 or 10 minutes for them to go on when you turn the switch on.
Yeah.
So it's just they're meant to go on and be left on. That's really how they're designed. And that's not the type of application where you leave lights on 24/7 or even during the night.
Yeah.
And that's probably why we have issues with them, but
Why don't we just get somebody down there to estimate the whole thing, wiring and everything?
I think
Can we do that?
it's hard
Conduit,
getting,
wire, light fixtures, new circuit, everything.
it's hard getting people to do anything right now. That's the problem I'm running into, and other people have been telling me the same thing.
All right, well, then we'll wait till things loosen up. Maybe next year, things will be loosened up a little. Might be
The other
next year.
problem is most of the electricians are, residential or light commercial. They don't want anything to do with this kind of stuff. So that narrows the field quite a bit. There are electrical firms around that do this kind of work, but
Who works on your pump houses over in at Lower Bucks?
we have our own electrician,
Oh, do you?
and then
Does he moonlight?
I don't want him up here. So, and the other thing is he farms stuff out to Bailey when it's something that's bigger than what he can handle, or if it's his workload gets behind, Bailey will come in and do some stuff. And I use municipal a lot in the stations, along with our in-house electrician and sometimes Bailey, just depending on what it is. Instrumentation stuff, we have PLCs and we have custom programs out there, and one of the Baileys writes those programs for us. That's kind of his expertise. So, you know, this kind of work is something that they would send one of their guys out to do, or a couple of their guys. They don't need their top guys for this kind of stuff. It's like production work.
All right, well, we'll keep searching for somebody. We'll find somebody
Yeah.
coming year.
But
I
just-
wouldn't worry about it. But it's been dark that long. We got to go one more year. I don't
I
want
try
to
not to go down there anymore if I can help it. Or
replace
I
light.
minimize my time if I have to go down there for anything.
Is it possible we get back in touch with Bailey's and ask them to redo their estimate, including, as Carl was saying, all new conduit?
I can do that. I can ask them about the conduit, you know, assuming that, you know, maybe a separate line item. I don't know that they can quote that. He might just give us a cost range, but at least we'd have an idea.
At least we have an idea then.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can do
I
that.
don't, like I said, I don't like kicking this can down the road too much longer.
Dave, can I
Yeah.
ask a question here? That is
Sure.
Bailey's proposal, this is Blake here, is that purportedly to do the whole job? It's, you know, understanding it's probably low. But you know, we're above a level in construction cost, or you know, cost of the job, that we've got to get at least 3 phone bids on it. So, I mean, keep that in mind. They don't have to be formal bids, but
Yep. No,
um,
and that's pretty common. We run into that. And I've, you know, my understanding has been that even if we call someone and they don't get back to us, as long as we document it as a telephone quote, you know.
yeah, I mean,
that's-
you make an effort to get 3 quotes, and if you can't because of the nature of the work, then you just document that. But
On the other hand, this is kind of a safety issue, and it is really repair and it is electrical. And my understanding is a lot of the electrical stuff, especially repair stuff, is not subject to that. Is
Well-
that your understanding, Blake?
no, actually, for under the municipal codes, it's maintenance is not. But
Right.
unfortunately, under the Authorities Act, it's maintenance, you know, any construction, any purchase is subject to it, except unless it's an emergency. If you have an emergency, I don't know if this would be considered an emergency. Or if
Yeah, and
the-
obviously we can't call it that at this point.
yeah.
Right.
Or if the nature of what you're, you know, of the work is so specialized, there's, you know, you're not going to get more than, you know, there's only one vendor in the area that does that kind of work. I mean, there are limitations on it, but just to be safe, I'd make a couple phone calls, and, you know, if you get a increased proposal from Bailey, maybe just check it out with 2 other people to see if, or 2 other
Yeah.
companies to see if they can submit a phone, you know, are willing to submit a phone quote. I mean, that's all.
Okay. The other problem I run into a lot too is that these companies don't want to work for municipalities. You know, they want to be paid right away, or they want money up front, this kind of stuff. And, you know, you start talking about POs or even, you know, I don't know how we do it here. I guess the bill gets approved at the next meeting or something, and they just kind of, you don't hear from them again.
It's 30 days. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So that's another level of problems that we have.
Yeah, I have a question also. As a joint use facility, wouldn't Lower Makefield pitch in on the cost?
Yes.
Yeah. That's reconciled, I guess, at the end of the year or each month or something, however you guys do it.
Each month.
Each month? Okay.
And also in my travels as a rookie here, isn't there some kind of state website where you can put a job up for bids? And maybe get some other bids or possible contractors, or am I mistaken with that?
No, I think you're right on that, for purchase of equipment, but also for jobs, I think you can go through a state website.
You
Could he
mean
put-
like co-stars?
Yeah.
Like 10 bid?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, CoStar, sounds to me like you're talking about CoStars, Mark, which is it's a program where the state basically takes bids yearly and vendors, enroll in it and put in bids on a statewide basis. And then and then because that's a public bidding process, municipalities, authorities can go into the CoStarz program and just pick and purchase something that's gone through that process. So that may be what you're talking about is CoStarz. They typically for procurement of equipment, not so much for services, although services are put through CoStarz. It's less commonly used for that, but that could be a possibility.
Well, I just wanted to call and check on you. I tried calling yesterday. I think you were on the phone.
Not too small of a job for Penn bid? Alex?
Well, PennBid is just the electronic public bidding process, and anymore, anything that we bid publicly, we usually run through PennBid. So, but that would be that's now the prevailing format and platform for public bidding, and done all electronically these days, and that would follow the same, $20-some thousand minimum for public bid.
I always do. I know that.
Well, maybe we could try that. I don't know, but well,
Can I
I-
say something?
I like to
don't
move aggressively on getting it done. I don't want to
Um,
play around with it anymore.
I was at a council meeting and they just announced, I don't know if cost is the problem, but they just announced that they received $240,000 in funds because of just funds that are being given out and stimulus money. That just went to Yardley Borough. I'm sure some went to Lower Makefield. This may be the time to get estimates, and I mean, I don't know if cost is an issue, but I remember that being announced at a meeting.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
typically borough funds aren't used for authority business, right, Dave?
No.
Um,
that's
Yeah,
what I was
one of the
gonna
other
say.
issues I think we're gonna have, like, and this is where it gets little complicated is, if we're gonna start looking at going on to like CoStarz and stuff like that, we're gonna have to have some kind of, not necessarily bid documents, but we're gonna have to have some kind of scope of work and some kind of specifications and this and that, and then that's gonna cost money. So you gotta factor
Right.
that in.
Right.
Right now it's kind of like a T&M job where if you get a local electrician to come out and look at it, like Bailey did, and say, yeah, it's going to cost this much. He gives us a written quote, and yeah, there's a chance that there may be some unforeseen things when he gets in there, but we'll have to deal with it then. That ultimately is probably going to be the cheaper way to go than trying to. It always reminds me of that old saying about like tripping over dollar bills to pick up pennies. We got to be careful with this kind of stuff because sometimes that's how you end up. By the time you factor in all the other things in order to save that money.
Right.
Yeah, that kind of goes hand in hand with what I was saying about CoStarz. Typically, you would use it to procure some sort of a specific piece of equipment or materials.
Right.
And that. You just you're basically going and buying it. If it's services, that's kind of the catch. You kind of put your finger on it, Phyllis. Then you have to define those services, and it ends up being you getting into a whole, if not specification, then a more detailed request for proposals. And that ends up
right.
taking time and cost to do that.
That's usually for bigger contracting jobs too. You can put a much larger job where you have detailed specs on a pen bid. So,
And much larger authorities too.
That's true.
Okay, Phil, you got anything else on this? Because I just want to recap and say, I think we would have touch base with Bailey's again and ask him to include whatever you think, such as the conduit. And from there, talk to municipal again.
Okay. I will do that. And I'll report back. And I hopefully will have some news on the VFDs. I have a feeling it's not going to be a big thing. Hopefully it's a small little thing that it ends up being. And I'll report back at the same time with that.
All right, anybody got anything for Phil? All right, Phil, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Pump Station Committee, Rich, Carl, you got anything?
I do not.
Very good. With that, Cheryl, you're up.
Okay. Everyone should have gotten all the reports, I hope. Nothing unusual there. I'll give my operations administrator report. What I wanted to note was down where it says pump station. We did get new software for the recorder at the pump station, and it's working fine. It's capturing everything. It actually was capturing everything all along. It wasn't transmitting, but it was, so it still isn't transmitting to the office, but that was OCC that tied that in somehow. So my opinion at this point is it wasn't reading every single day accurately. Sometimes it would give us question marks, and pretty much every month, maybe twice a month, it would give me question marks. And then I'd have to go to the pump station and get the little card reader, bring it back to the office and download the flows. So if that's what I've been doing, and that's what I've had to do every month. So the fact that it's not sending it to the office is not really causing me any more trouble, because I
It's not
still
causing you any more trouble.
any extra trouble, because I'm still just going to go to the pump station at the end of every month, get the card reader and get the numbers. So that's fine. You know, I've had to do that anyway. If it read straight through without a problem, then maybe I would just have to go every quarter, you know, a few times a year and just download it so we have it on the computer. But the fact that it was giving me errors every month, I had to go every month. So that's what I'm just going to do. And it didn't even miss any days, actually. The technician thought we lost 5 days, but we didn't even lose that. So it all got captured, and it looks like it's doing fine.
Well, I'm going to ask a dumb question then. Is that procedure that you just described, having going down twice a month to get this little
Yeah.
chip, bring it back to the office
Once
to
a
do
month.
it once a month?
Yeah, once a month.
Is that procedure in your job breakdown analysis so that the day that you're incapacitated or can't come to work, Carol or somebody knows what to do to get this reading?
Yeah, Carol and I went together a couple times.
That's all I wanted to hear.
Yep.
That's all I wanted to hear.
So she knows.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So that's that. I wanted to point that out. And the reconciliation for the pump station for 2020, that I got that together and sent that to Lower Makefield. And we had a few back and forth errors that he didn't agree with, but he accepts it now. He reviewed it and it looks good to him. So that's done. So
gee, if we could only get Morrisville up to that speed, we'd be great, huh?
yeah, he's a good guy to work with, Lower Makefield, and I've continued to work with him. That's going to come to an end, and when the new company takes over. But for now, I'm still working with him. So anyway, it was like 112,000. I don't have it in front of me now, but I think it was like 112,000 for the year for the pump station. 60-some thousand of that was the grinder. But Lower Mayfield's going to owe us like 97,000 of that.
We're good.
So that's all good. And the only other thing I want to mention was Mr. Garlett's asked to be on the wait list, which he called to have me put him on the wait list for a new construction, which is going to be known as 115 Morgan. And since I looked that up and there is no 115 Morgan, I assume that
That's the pond.
put a new building. Yeah. So I put him on the wait list and explained everything to him, but he was on the wait list for that same thing about 5 years ago, and then he dropped it. So I guess he's picking that up again. Thinking about it. I don't know. So
That's when he wanted to put a housing project back there, didn't he?
yeah, I think that's
Well, he
Well,
wanted to put a multi-family house at the corner
multi-family.
behind Vince's.
Right.
Behind where?
behind Vince Prophy at the bend there by
Oh, yeah.
Florence Avenue. But while we were on the topic of Mr. Garlitz, I'm concerned about number 23 on the delinquent list. And although it's in dispute, I thought we were done with the dispute. And if in fact we are, I think we should consider leaning the property. That woke Rich up.
Yeah, we do have a few that we should lean. And I'm really waiting for the water company to give us a go-ahead that they're doing shut-offs. I think they said they were gonna start in April, so, but we haven't gotten that message yet.
Well,
And Dave, there is that last letter that came from the Garlitz attorney that I sent that around.
yep.
So I don't know if there's any comments on that, or if we're just gonna hold our ground.
My intention is that we hold our ground, but now that you brought it up, the rest of the board can comment on their concerns or intentions. What Carol's referring to is last month, I think it was, they received another letter from Skip's attorney, Mr. Garlitz's attorney, requesting that we reconsider our position for a credit issue. And at that March meeting or January, was a March meeting, I think we decided, no, we're not going to consider any more. We're not going to have any more consideration for credit. Now, if we want to go back and revisit that, that's fine with me, but I think we're beating a dead horse to death on this one.
Where did he say he lost the water at?
In the ground.
It didn't go through the sewer.
That's what he's saying.
We have proof of that.
I don't have any proof of anything.
Wasn't he supposed to
Well,
provide plumber's
and-
report?
He did.
Indirectly,
He said-
indirectly, he submitted proof. He had that plumber come out and write a letter that, yeah, something was dug up and it was a leak.
Well, I don't know if you call that proof, but that's just a letter from the
I'm
plumber.
saying that's his proof.
Right.
Was it dug up where? Was it dug up in the yard before
It
the
was-
meter or after
He
the meter?
claims it was between his two houses.
Oh,
Yeah, well, here we have an issue which we touched on technically earlier involving the garage bathroom. Here we have one building that has three or four separate addresses.
Actually, Rich, it's got 5, but go ahead.
Okay, it has 5 addresses in one building. But then we have, and correct me if I'm wrong, Cheryl, we have then another dwelling that is off the same water service being fed from the 5-unit building, but that's a separate tax parcel.
Right. Right.
So we have 2 tax parcels being put into a single tap, which is against then everything we discussed earlier, because you have 2 properties attached to one, where you're supposed to have 2 connections. And then we have the 5 separate addresses going in and 1 meter.
I stand corrected, Rich. In the one building, there are 4 addresses. In the northern building are 2 addresses.
All right, we have 106, 108, 110, I know in the one building. I don't know if there's another address on that one.
12.
Well, 12 is a separate tax parcel.
Well, I'm just telling you what's on the doors.
Yeah, okay, then 12. So you have three, I'll call them apartments for a term. You have 3 apartments. I don't know if the old office space down below is part of the apartments or not.
Above the garage is an apartment.
Okay, and then you have the separate property next door.
Yeah.
I guess he's grandfathered in because I don't know when this ordinance or these rules were drawn, or he's against the codes from day one. I don't know which.
So the point is,
He has a
on
legal
his own.
hookup.
He's
Sorry?
on his own as far as I'm concerned. And do we investigate the issue of having two tax parcels into one lateral?
before we go into that though, I think I would like Carol to update us on what she's found subsequent to that in researching the history. I think that's what you were going to say, right, Carol?
I mean, I sent that around. I sent that history around.
Well, you were telling me that you had found even further back that the history, the cycle of excess, if you will.
Yeah, in that spreadsheet I sent around, there are some occasions where he peaked kind of high. 2015, he went up to 30,600. So there are some spikes that he's had.
Here,
Early
I don't mean-
2013. He doesn't know about it. I never went back that far with him.
listen, it's not that I want to cut this short, but the bottom line is, if we consider anything right now, what are you going to do next month, next year, the following year, when this same thing repeats itself? It's not going to go away. In my mind, it's a connection that is beyond code. And I don't think we should placate the situation by appeasing the ratepayer, because it's gonna happen again. He, by the way, unless I read this wrong, his repair stated in his words that they fixed the leak by tapping into a parallel line that had been in place when he first did this to begin with. So how old is that line? So it's gonna repeat itself. That's my feeling on it. And that
I
was
ask
one of
one-
my reasons why I said that my consideration is to deny the request, which is what we did. We're in the process now of rehashing it over. That's fine, but the fact still remains. In my mind, it's gonna happen again. We're gonna be here again.
And I have one question, Cheryl or Carol. The $6,000 credit seems excessive. I mean, if you look at it, he can make an argument that he runs 200,000 a year. Okay, it's very close to that a year. Okay, through 18, and then in 19 and 20, and a little bit in 18. Maybe he has, an extra 200,000. Right, he ran 31 one year and 28 or 9 another year, and
That's what I saw too.
or
This
two,
was 2019.
what would 200,000 extra gallons, or what would that actually be? Because the 6,000 seemed excessive.
Yeah, because he went way back, he
Excessive.
went years back.
Oh, that's insane. I mean, he said he went to 18, but 18, he said January of 18, but 18 was fine until the very end of the year.
Right. It's mostly with
So again, the
2019
most
that was a little bit.
the most he could argue is 200,000, I think, if you look at the end of 18 and 19 and 20. So what would that be in terms of a credit? Because the 6,000 just seems crazy.
Well, I tried to crunch some of the numbers today, and in terms of over capacity, water capacity, it was like times the $15 per 1,000 gallons. That his overage, if it was a leak, everything was above board and all that, would be like 3,000
2000, yeah.
and some dollars.
That's
agree.
my estimate, about 3,000.
Yeah.
So if we were going to entertain a leak, and I don't know whether the board's ever done that, the authority's ever done that in the past. Has somebody ever got a credit for a leak
Oh,
before?
sure. Yeah.
Oh, yes, yes,
Okay,
yes. When they've had substantiated measures and documentation that the water did leak. It was a viable connection, and the plumber, in most cases, verified that the water did not go into the sewer. Now, that's not an argument here though, Mark, because he says it went into the ground. And so it shouldn't be, he shouldn't be charged for the sewer use, and that's his argument. And I'll counter that by saying it's not a valid connection by code. And this situation will not go away. We will revisit this again, I assure you.
Well,
The
I
other
was,
thing is, his plumber, report was 6 months after he claimed to have done the fix. So
Yes, yes, which is another thing. So, I don't know. Yeah, I'm spouting off at the mouth right now, so I'll be quiet. But I think everyone knows what my feelings are. We've already beat this dead horse to death. We denied the request. We can reconsider it if the majority of the board wants to do that. But I think if anything is granted, we will just kick ourselves in the pants later on when it comes back again, and it will come back again.
Well, I think it's gonna come back regardless either way.
Rich, you're absolutely right.
Because
You're absolutely right.
he's not letting it go. But
No.
I just think it would be difficult to come up with a number because of his spikes from time to time. How can we know, what an average,
But Cheryl, we've had this conversation before when we decided to deny the claim.
right?
We didn't trust the number that he gave us.
No.
Okay, so
He's
Rich says
way-
it's gonna come up again. I agree with that. And you're gonna get maybe a different number. I don't know.
Yeah.
I
Well,
just,
that's what I'm saying. It's almost impossible to really,
Right.
I think he's using an average figure that's
well,
low.
when I did it today, I threw out 2018 because it's not that unusual compared to the previous 5 years.
Agreed.
But there's definitely in 2019 an increase for, 15 months or a year and a half there. And my
Exactly.
idea would be just to get rid of him, and maybe he'll never get rid of him, would just to be the credit for what he owes now, end of story, just to get this issue taken care of.
Well, I don't know how you can go so long without realizing you have high usage.
Yeah,
You
well,
know,
that's the
I
other
can
thing.
see a 30-day or 60-day, but you mean to tell me you go almost a whole year, or you go a whole year with very high readings? That's on him or whoever pays his bills.
well, that's just it though, Rich. My argument was he's already collected this money from his tenants when he was receiving the bills and paying the bills.
No, he
Now he's
actually
decided
pays,
not to pay the bills.
he pays the sewer bills, so
Right.
that's, yeah. He
Right.
doesn't
Yeah.
collect that, but
I would venture to say Mr. Garlitz is a very good businessman. I'm sure that he's being reimbursed by his tenants for the water usage.
I'm not touching that one.
Okay. Where does the board want to go with this?
Well, just stay where we are with it right now. That's all.
Well,
We made a decision. I'm done with it.
okay.
No,
And
we're moving on.
I brought it up only because of what he owes on the delinquent list. And I say it's time that we lien the property.
Yeah, at least in good faith, he should pay what he owes. He's
Well,
holding that amount of money sort of hostage, thinking
Yes,
he's
he
going to
is.
get a deal out of it.
yes, he is. And to reaffirm our decision, that's another reason why I'm saying we should consider a lien or posting. I don't, and I know PAWC won't shut off the water anyway. Well, then the hell with them. Lien the property.
Well, I think we have to go through our proper procedure of posting or whatever it is, then lien and then shut off. However, our,
yeah, well, that one would be a real tricky one to shut off because it's multiple tenants.
Well,
but has he been posted yet?
no,
no.
No,
Okay, and that's our first step in doing a final shut off, is it not?
yes.
Yes, Blake,
Okay.
Can we avoid, can we negate the posting process and just go for a lien?
No, I'd do nothing different than the usual process so that he can't claim that, he's being singled out. I'd go with if posting's the first notice he gets, then I'd post it.
Okay,
Yeah,
so I guess what I'm trying to clarify here is that even though we go ahead with the posting, we know, and Cheryl, correct me if I'm wrong, PAWC is not going to shut them off anyway, right?
Not yet. Unless they start soon, yeah.
Yeah, I think they said that they were gonna start soon, but now I'm not sure about that. I've also seen some things that they're not ready to start.
Okay, but if we go through the process of posting, then we can move to the next step, right? Blake?
yeah,
Okay,
absolutely, yeah.
I don't think there's gonna be shut-offs for a long while.
I agree.
Because you can't evict tenants anymore at this time. There is numerous people seeking public assistance from the county, which is a program that's going to run at least 18 months of them paying the rents and any utility bills for tenants that are in trouble.
Okay, but we can still follow our
We can follow our
procedure
procedures.
by
But
posting.
like I said, the shut-offs are not going to happen due to all this county money or federal government money that's coming into the county.
Then I say we follow the procedure, post it.
That's it. Follow the procedures.
Any questions or comments?
So
Yeah.
we follow the procedure. The water won't get turned off, but we could do the lien.
Yes.
What
yeah.
I think I'm hearing,
Okay.
okay. Well, I'm just reviewing the sheet one more time to make sure that we're not.
Dave, is he looking for a response? Is that, I mean, we have the letter from the lawyer, he's been told the authority's decision is not to give him a credit? I mean,
Yeah, he's been
received that.
told that, right?
yeah,
He was told that, and this last letter is in response, request from his lawyer,
Right.
asking that we reconsider. Now, if you think that we should send it back and say, okay, but no, we're not going to reconsider.
yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of hanging out there now. Maybe just a brief, we got your letter and the authority is not going to reconsider its decision. Just,
Okay, I can do that.
yeah, just to close the book
You
on
know
it.
what, Cheryl or Carol, you get with Blake. I almost think it might be better on Blake's letterhead. I know it's going to cost us, but
I don't know. I mean, I'd be glad to write a letter, but I don't know that that's really necessary. Just telling them the board's not going to reconsider.
Okay.
I don't, whatever your
Okay.
pleasure is, but I don't think there's any anything added by that here.
I think it's a good idea to have it come from you, Blake, saying that you're not going to go and refund his money, blah, blah, blah. And oh, by the way, we're posting your property and advising you that it's being posted, and next step will be leaning, and the next
All right.
step, you shut off.
Okay.
Let them know all the procedures and have it
All
come
right.
from you.
All right, I'll do that.
yeah, this is a tough one, Blake.
Dot the i's, cross the t's.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, enough said.
All right, I got it.
Okay, well, we took care of that issue. Cheryl, how'd you let us get into this?
Sorry.
Huh?
Well, I'm done with my report.
I'm trying to remember how the hell we got into it to begin with. Okay.
You brought it up under delinquencies, Dave. That's how we,
Under what?
under delinquencies.
Yeah, it's his fault.
Well, we were talking about oh, that's right. She brought up that he's thinking he applied for a wait list.
Yes,
He applied to go on the wait list for the family mansion down at the corner there.
right.
Regarding delinquent, can we do the same for number 22?
Sure can.
Okay.
That's what I was looking at earlier, Carol, and I couldn't get it out.
Okay. Because there's been no response. I've sent numerous and I've indicated, we've had absolutely no communication.
But we haven't posted. And as Rich stated and Blake insisted, we follow the process and post it.
Okay.
Okay. With that said, I will take a motion to approve the authority bill list for this month. I'll make the motion to approve the authority bill list for $66,776.
Seconded.
Moved.
So moved.
Motion been made, properly seconded. I made the motion, you seconded it, Rich, just for,
Okay.
thank you. Motion been made, properly seconded. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
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 Abstain. I'm one of the payees this month. Motion passes 4 yeas, 1 abstain. With that said, Cheryl, you got anything else?
No, that's it.
Carol?
No, but Cheryl needs some signers tomorrow.
Yes.
I'll be there.
I gotta. Oh, wait a minute. Can I sign my own check, Blake?
Your own check. What, you
I'm
mean-
a payee. I'm
Oh.
being reimbursed for Tom's plaque. That's why I didn't vote. on it.
Oh, okay, all right. You normally sign checks.
I do.
Yeah, I mean, there's an invoice. I
And
don't,
there's a second signer there, so.
I don't have a problem. No, there's no problem with
Bring it to me. I'll sign it, Dave.
Yeah. You want me to sign it on the back or on the front, Rich? Okay. Yeah, someone send me a text message about 10 of 12 tomorrow to remind me.
I will.
Okay, with that said, Brian, you're up, brother.
Hey, that time. All right, good evening, everyone.
Well, don't blame me, blame Cadwalder. He was in here doing all the talking earlier. You know how he used to get.
All right, I guess starting on with the agenda here. As far as Marsville, I have no updates personally myself. So I guess I can move on to other things I have. Chapter 94 report, the wasteland management report that went into DEP and was also distributed to Marsville, Lower Makefield, as well as we did provide a copy to Aqua at their request, since they are in the process of purchasing the system, Lower Makefield. So that was finished. Last week, we sent out requests for proposals to plumbing contractors for clean out installations along Grease Drive. We haven't got any responses yet, but kind of gave a deadline of end of the month. Hope to get some proposals back and then report back to you next month with that. So
I'm sure those guys are all real busy too.
yeah. Yeah, we didn't get too much response last year either. So probably send some reminders and try to bug some people. And that's what we got last year. Like, oh, we're too busy. They weren't going to bid. Other than the sewer project, which I guess we'll discuss in further detail later in executive session. Dave, going back to the manhole in Afton and Canal, we had gotten pricing back in 2018 for the casting replacements, and we were around $5,000. We did the one over in one at intersection of Main Street and Afton, and then I believe the other one was in front of Millie's. I was looking back at the quote. We'd use Pinchotti, who also did the drop pipe over
Charcoal.
Delaware Ave and Charcoal, yeah, that street there. He had combined all the work. So I think we'd probably be, if we were to explore doing that again, I think you're probably in like the $5,000 range if you're looking to try to replace that lid. Obviously, you have traffic control.
Yeah, it's right at the
But
top.
that
of the grid.
it's about 2 feet or so off the center line.
Yep, right at
You
the
have
top.
to,
of the
you have to
grid.
maintain the traffic. You know, it's a tough little turn there at Canal Street. So if you want, I could try to get some pricing if you want.
Please do. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but right at the end of Canal Street where it meets Afton, which is about 30 feet maybe from the top of the bridge. It's moving all over the place. It's a wonder it hasn't fallen in, but I guess it's still wide enough that it doesn't, but it's about 1.5 inches or more below the grade, the lid itself below the casting. So something's not right there. So maybe get Pinciotti to look at it, but I'm fearful that someone's going to come on over that bridge a little too fast sometime and hit it on the downslope and cause a bigger problem. So I think, Brian, it's wise that we go ahead and get pricing to see what it's going to take to replace that. And if anybody else knows of another loud one that needs to be looked at, speak now, or at least get a hold of Cheryl or Carol and let them know about it. I know there's one more. I can't remember where the hell it is.
We had a couple more on the, sorry to cut you off. We did have a couple on the list last time. I could look those up.
Yep.
And I know we targeted those 2 last time.
There's one on Delaware Avenue here, and I can't remember where the hell it is. I think it's in front of Chuck Dolan's house, but anyway, I'll take a look at it tomorrow. But this one, I think Canal and Afton needs to be investigated and resolved quickly before we have a catastrophe there. Okay. Anything else, Brian?
If it's of that importance, why don't we just make a motion to spend up to X amount of dollars to repair that manhole lid? Instead of having
point,
to
Rick.
wait for another month.
Good point. What do you think, Brian? Or do you want to see if there's any more involved first?
I said,
Well, we've had them done.
I think you know, you might want to just try to address that one. So we did in 2018, the one at the intersection of Main Street and Afton was about $5,200. So.
Well, we've had them do, or other companies do other ones. Let's just take one of the highest prices on the ones that were done, add a few $1,000s to it and say not to exceed number.
How about we say not to exceed $6,000 on this one?
I'll go for it.
Is that fair, Brian?
I think so.
I make a motion that we authorize Brian to contact Pinciotti or contact a contractor to have this work repaired on Afton Avenue manhole at the end of Canal Street for no more than $6,000. That's my motion.
Yeah, one or more contractors.
Yeah, I would
Thank you.
leave it open.
Anybody gonna second it?
I second it.
Okay, Mark. Motion's made, properly seconded. Any questions or comments regarding this motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion passes unanimously. Very good. Anything else, Brian?
Not for now, just
Yep.
you can resume discussions in the executive session.
Yep.
I have a sort of a related question.
Go ahead, Mark.
Do we have an emergency construction company handy in case there's a pipe burst or the manhole cover to fall in or something like that?
Call Rich Cole at this number.
There you go. Yeah, come and visit me in my office and we'll sit down and discuss it.
And if you can't get a hold of him at that time, he's probably with the chairman out on the street looking at the problem.
We usually call Gilmore and Associates if we get a real, and they get people moving.
Yep.
To answer your question, Mark, no, because I'll just go off on a quick tangent. And you might have heard this already, but if a homeowner has a problem and they're backed up, let's say, what Cheryl and Carol do is they tell them, you call your plumber and have their plumber fix their problem and record all the information in regards to how far they had to throw the snake into the drain and blah, 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 blah. And then when they pay the plumber and they submit the bill to us, we review it, let Gilmore look at it. And we, if we see that it was a sewer authority problem in our lateral, then we obviously pay for it. And we know that by the number of feet that go into the pipe when they're cleaning it out from the homeowner's end. And if it's not, then they pay for it. But as far as an emergency, I guess that's my best example I can come up with an emergency.
Yeah,
Right, and Mark, that would be, what Dave just described would be something with an individual service where there's a backup. Beyond that, something into your question, something in the street, like the, broken casting or something like that, or a sewer surcharge that's not, in the street that's not associated with a specific house. We don't have anybody per se. Well, I'll tell you, we have worked with Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority in the past. They have a construction division that is capable and has in the past been willing to work with other municipalities and municipal authorities to provide those types of services. So that is somebody that we have called in the past. We can. And then beyond that, we will also reach out to specific local contractors. For example, Pinchatti, who's done work for the authority in the past. On short notice, we can reach out to them with something like this. If it was more an emergency, and try to get them out there. So that's how we've approached it.
Yeah, because I've been doing, some research using Google, and then also they send you all kinds of articles on sewerage. And most of them are disaster articles of things that have happened, gone wrong. So that's why I asked the question.
Cheryl and Carol have at their beck and call sometimes, Mr. Ed Diaz, who's helped us out. I think recently, last November, there was a severe backup out on Whiskey Hill. I forget the name of the street. But
Jerview, Cold Spring, Windsor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was backing up into the guy's basement. And I guess when Ed got there, it was a blockage down on Cold Springs or something. And then we also had one he took care of, I want to say in December or January, right down at Longshore and East College.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah,
so-
Brian, you were there.
College going up Longshore.
Yep, that's right. The
Yeah, and
chairman-
so you know, Mark, Ed's business is jetting and TVing of sewer mains as opposed to just say, individual laterals.
Thank you.
Yeah, and there's an emergency contact list. Yes, Cheryl, you have, I actually just pulled it up, but it does, we have a list for pump station contacts and then also for sewer cleaning. But as far as I know, we don't really have a go-to necessarily for sewer mains, for excavations, those type of things.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Dunbar.
Okay, as far as the general meeting goes, the only thing I can report on is with regard to the right to know request of Mr. Nolan, we did provide a redacted copy of the appraisal report, and he has indicated he's not going to contest the fact that we redacted the information about other property owners involved. So that's concluded the right to know request. There are a couple other issues that I'll discuss when we go into executive session, and basically that's all I would want to discuss at the open meeting.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to go into executive session at this time, or if there's other business to take care of.
No, I got a couple more things of business to take care of, and I'd like to hear from the rest of the board members. So, Mr. Cole, do you have
Nothing.
anything? Mr. Perella,
Nothing.
Mr. Schumer,
Good.
I have nothing at this time, but have some things to discuss in the executive session, which we will then come out of and finish off the rest of the business. So unless anything, Cheryl, you want to do the revenue fund requisition
Sure,
before we get carried away?
sure. We need a motion to requisition $150,000 to go from Bank of New York Revenue Fund to our Wells Fargo Operating Fund.
So moved.
Second.
That was good, Michael.
I'm not gonna repeat it.
I know. That
Ah,
was
that's
good,
why
Michael.
that's why I did it for you. Yeah.
Okay, any questions or comments on the requisition for 150 grand from the Bank of New York to go to Wells Fargo? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion passes unanimously. So that's out of the way. Okay, we will be talking about real estate and litigation. And after we're done with that, I will ask everyone but the board members to vacate. And I would like to have a quick session with the other 4 board members. And then at that point, we will come back into session if you wanted to hang around, and if not, we'll finish off what little business might become of that executive session, and then we will adjourn. So again, we go into executive session. When we're done with that, everybody vacates but the board members. It won't take long. Then we will reconfirm. If you're not there, thank you very much for participating tonight. And I will get a hold of Cheryl or Carol in the morning. I'll text you, Cheryl, on what time we come back out of session, come
Okay.
back into regular session, and the time we adjourn.
Okay.
At this time, I've got,
8:30.
what time is it?
8:30.
You got it. We are now in executive session. Alex, you can start the recorder.
Started recording.
All right, we are out of executive session. And at this point of time, I would like to make a motion that we give our 3 active employees, being Phil, Cheryl, and Carol, an across the board 3% wage increase effective April. I don't know what the date is. I'll be contingent upon how it works out with the, I forget how that schedule works, but we've done it in March, we've done it in April, so this one will be in April. Motion's been made.
Seconded.
Motion's been made, properly seconded. Any further comments regarding the motion?
So it's 3% across the board.
Yes, sir.
I'm good with that.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? None. Motion passes unanimously. With that said, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Seconded.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. Alex, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you,
And,
guys.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Alex.
We'll
Yep.
see
Everybody have a good night.
everybody-
See you later.
See everybody next month, or talk to them at least.
Talk to you sometime.
Have a good one. Be safe.
Thank you all.